All right.
Great. Let me just hit this. Continue. Great. So I'd like to,
It's not looking great. We don't have, the applicant isn't in on the attendees.
why don't we,
I'm sorry. Yeah, started.
let me start the meeting and then we can talk about that. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our P&D meeting of August 18th, 2021. I would like to introduce the members of the City Council. First of all, Vice Chair of this subcommittee P&D is Jen Holgram, and Barry Pett is Ward 2 City Councilor, and he's on this. And I am the chair of P&D, and we're happy to have Sherry Carvelis, who is our assistant clerk of committees. No, not assistant.
The clerk.
Of committees. I'm sorry, Sherry. I should have it right by now.
That's okay.
We're looking for the applicant, which is Beth Ghibli Pangakis and Mr. Norton. So maybe this is them.
I don't see anyone else on the call, Councilor Gilman.
Okay. Let's see. Do you want to? Sean, Councilor Nolan's on the call, the Ward 5 City Councilor. Welcome, Councilor Nolan. We are waiting for our applicant to join us, and I know that they know about it because I watched the Zoom meeting this morning of the SEAC committee. So how is it that we should try to reach out to them?
Councilor Gilman, I have her phone number here. I did email her about the meeting, but I have her phone number. Do you want me to reach out via phone?
Yeah, would you do that,
Sure.
please?
Sure.
For those of you who may be on the call, which I don't think we have any other attendees, but if you're watching the Zoom meeting tomorrow, we are waiting for our applicant for our only order of business, which is a special event permit application request for street closure for a ceremony on Shore Road on September 25th, 2021. So Sherry is trying to reach out to the applicant to see if she can reach her. And it looks like we might be in business, so hopefully, even if she can call in, if she doesn't have a panelist, we're pretty flexible. Oh,
Okay.
hey.
You. All right, bye-bye. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Thank you for waiting.
I recognize you because I watched the Zoom meeting for SEAC this morning. So, anyway, so let me introduce the first order of business, the only order of business on our August 18th P&D meeting. And that is a special event permit application request for a street closure for a ceremony on Shore Road on September 25th, 2021. Consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer device, there's a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options to be recognized to speak. All of our votes tonight will be by roll call. And like I said, the order of business, we've already mentioned that. And P&D is, again, is Jen Holgram, Barry Pett, and myself. And Sean Nolan, who is your Ward 5 City Councilor, is also on the call. We don't have a quorum of our full committee, but the decision makers for this permit typically are just the three of us in P&D, and we're here tonight to talk about a street closure. And I think it was clear to you on the Zoom meeting. So Beth and Mr. Norton, what is your first name? I forget.
It's Ron.
Ron, okay. Would you both introduce yourselves and tell us about your upcoming wedding and what you are hoping to accomplish, so then we can have a discussion. Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
so you start.
Hi, I'm Beth Gibley Panagos, and this is my fiance, Ron Nordine. And we are residents of Magnolia in Gloucester, obviously Gloucester. And we are planning a wedding on September 25th, Saturday, late afternoon wedding starting at 4 o'clock. We have roughly 130 people coming. And we live at the point, and it's just a section that we would like closed so that our guests can go back and forth. But
Look-
I would like Ron to finish that.
Yeah, let me just try to be clear. So we have some property on 43 Shore Road. It's on both sides of the road. And on the ocean side is a strip of grass where we'd like to have the ceremony. And it will mean that there'd be people crossing back and forth across the road, and quite a few, because we're gonna have 130 people there. And so what we'd like to do is, if we can, is to just divert the through traffic from Hesperus to Fuller Street for an hour or two while we do the ceremony. And all of the residents on Shore Road, we've actually gone and visited each one and talked to them. They're all fine with that. They've all kind of signed off on it. And the events committee approved it pending your approval, because it's really, apparently it's more in your domain to approve such a thing.
And I'd like to add, half of the residents of our neighbors are coming to
Yeah,
the
they're
wedding.
coming to the wedding too.
So,
Okay. Okay, that's great. And so what I'd like to do is begin by, I think it would be helpful to ask Sherry to put up the informal map that you developed, where it shows what the route is, so we can take a look at that and understand specifically what part of Shore Road would be handled. So Sherry, can you upload that document? It was sent as an attachment this morning or this afternoon. Attachment of 3 documents. I believe it was on the second page of that document, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, one sec.
Cool. I see it, but it's upside up.
Well,
You can
that's,
get it.
Okay. I think it,
There we go.
okay. Can you get it on the whole page?
Yep.
that one is the site, our property site.
Okay. There was another one that came this
Yeah,
afternoon that,
Yes, one moment.
this is one of the benefits of Zoom. It really is really cool that
Yeah,
we can
it's
look at
great.
this.
it's
And then the
amazing.
public, when they decide they want to watch the meeting tomorrow or whenever, they can
Yeah,
see.
there we are.
everything.
Great.
That's
Okay. So this
Yeah.
Everything we did, yes.
So,
Oh,
we had it. We just-
sorry.
It's okay. We're with you, Sherry. You're awesome.
There we go.
Great. Okay. So, so the specific location, and Sherry knows this route really well because she's very familiar with that area of town, and so does Council Nolan, and actually so does Council Holgram, because everybody lives in Ward 5 except for Barry and I. So specifically, if I understand this, it starts at 58 Shore Road and the closure.
Yes.
And it would end at 39 Shore Road, thus the reason why you reached out to the neighbors that lived in those homes. Is that correct? So it's from number 58 to 39, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
that's right.
Okay, all right, so that's helpful. And then the other thing that I wanted to just review is that the alternative route would be to go down Hesperus right before 58, and then take a right onto Fuller Street. Correct? So
Yes,
for
that's
the,
right.
for the general public that would be wanting
Right.
to take a ride down Shore Road, that would
Yeah.
be the alternative route. So there would be a quick left, and then a quick right, and then all the way down to the end of Fuller Street where you pop out after 39. Is that the correct route?
That's exactly right.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So even though this looks a little bit messy, this plan, I think we all can understand it. So that's
Okay.
good. You did a good job. Thank you.
I did it to figure out who was who there, but okay.
So thank you. So what I'd like to do is begin with asking Council Nolan if he has any questions for Ron and for Beth, because he is the Ward 5 City Councilor. So Council Nolan, would you pop on and ask any questions that you might have? Because you know the neighborhood better than anybody.
Is the road gonna be closed for foot traffic or bicycles or walking of pets? When you close it at Hesperus Avenue, does that mean that they can't access the Magnolia Pier with vehicles? And are you gonna plan on trying to park on Shore Road?
A good question. And no, we will not close it to anyone who wants to walk their pets or ride a bike or come down. It's just the automobiles we were concerned about.
And yeah, and no parking on Shore Road. We're not planning to allow that at all.
Perfect. That's a great question, Council Nolan. Thank you. So any other questions that you have, Council Nolan, before I open it up to Council Pett and Council Holgram?
Not at this time. Thank you, Council Gilman.
Okay, great. So Jen and Barry, do you have questions to ask of our applicants?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your impending nuptials. That's very exciting, and September is a wonderful time to get married.
Thank you.
Sure. So I know that in special events, it was discussed that it would be advisable to obtain a police detail if possible. Have you been in touch with the police department about that?
We haven't yet, but we know that we have to. I guess we thought we would be talking to you first, and then we'd talk to the police about a
Gotcha.
detail.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council Pett.
Yes, I have actually a number of questions, and a little somewhat confused. Number one, you were talking about when at your application, you were talking about closing this road off for a period of time while you're having your wedding event, and congratulations, by the way. And then it was suggested that that be cut down to maybe an hour around the ceremony, etc. And I thought from watching the event meeting that it brought up a number of questions. Number one is access to the Magnolia Pier would be affected by this. And even though you would allow people to be, say walking or on bicycles, I have a problem with that. And as a general question is, as we look at these types of applications for road closures for a reason, they're usually for either a public event or for an event that might be a private event, but is done for the public good. There is some public good for it. And I'm just wondering, is there anything involved in this wedding other than obviously your wonderful event? Is there anything that the citizens of the city are gaining by this happening?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, it's essentially, we just planned, we planned our wedding and we invited the neighbors, and it's like, it's not more than that, not to be clear.
Okay, well, that's the question. The reason I'm asking that question is that giving permission for this type of a road closure, for regardless of the amount of time, if it's for a private purpose, a private event that does not serve the public good in some way, if we were to approve that, that would set a precedent for other people that might want to come in and do the same type of thing. And I just personally have, an issue with that in general, as like I said, as well as the issue of the access to the Magnolia Pier. So that was the reason for the question, and I will have some comments and some just suggestions when we get to that point. But for now, Chairperson Gilman, I think that answers some of the questions that I did have.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. So let me just take a second, and then I'll, Beth, I saw that you have your hand raised, but just hold on just a second. I think what I'd like to do is just summarize the highlights of the special event meeting. And first of all, the SEAC approved the event at the August 5th, 2021 meeting for a ceremony at 43 Shore Road on September 25th, 2021. It's a Saturday, for approximately 130 guests, and referred the event to P&D for the matter of street closure. The applicant was requesting a street closure in front of their property for a 5-hour period. The applicant was informed by the leadership in the SEAC meeting that a street closure for that long a period, as it was not a public event, as Council Pett said, not benefiting the public, would probably not be approved by us, but a 1-hour closure for the ceremony was a possibility. And the applicant was informed that in place of a street closure, they could also request a police detail for the 5-hour period. But Assistant Chief Fitzgerald, who serves on that committee, was clear that a detail of that magnitude might not be an easy one to fill. That was the questions that came up. So I guess I'll ask Beth to speak now if you want to elaborate a little bit on this. And
Just one thing about.
It's the pier that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering what the thought is on the pier and the public not being able to get there, because the pier is before number 58. So the through traffic would be able to view it, would be able to see it and walk to it. It's not affecting that.
Well, they can't drive to the pier per se. They walk to it. Most people do walk.
And most people walk to it, but they can go left. It's right there. Yes, it is right there. So
anyway, just to be clear about it, we were originally thinking about a longer period of diversion of traffic, and then we, after we talked to the Special Events Committee, we thought, well, we could shrink it down and just for the period that we're actually doing our ceremony for safety reasons, because there'll be a lot of people in and around the road, and it just sort of seemed like for the safety and security, would be better to have the road closed for that period. Not to mention we'll cut the thing in half, but that was the reason. I think that if it was an hour, it would still be probably enough to do the ceremony and do that part.
okay. So what go ahead, Beth. I didn't mean to cut you off.
And the second question that Mr. Pett had was about giving back to the community, which I am a local business owner and I am coming to Gloucester. It's a restaurant that I'll be opening on Main Street, but we continuously do what we can for our neighborhood. In fact, we own another house there in Magnolia called at 29 Fuller, and we've recently repainted it and brought in lots of flowers and gave all the neighbors new plants and things. And I always bring food to the fire department, and anything left over from the beach shack, the singing beach shack, I bring to the fire department as well. So we've been in Magnolia for almost 3 years now, and and today I just donated to Cape Plain Air because they're coming to town, all the artists. And so I'm advertising in their booklet, and I will work closely with the rest of the businesses in Gloucester and just improve our neighborhood and improve our town.
Thank you.
It may not happen that day, but truly we are. And I did think of giving away pizzas at the corner of, I thought, well, maybe if I give a coupon, people won't get upset, something like that. And that's all.
So, so what I'd like to suggest that we do is, let's make a motion if with your okay, Council Holgram and Pat, and then we can discuss it and talk about the conditions, and then the other alternative that we could consider, just as another alternative, is because this is kind of a precedent-setting decision. We could decide as a council, as P&D, that we'd like to have this matter approved with the full city council next Tuesday at our meeting. So we could ask Councilor LeBlanc to, because, you know, I think we are sensitive to the fact that, and I think the CF committee described that very well to you both when they explained that maybe an hour might be about as much as breathing room here. You know, but that this was precedent setting. So on something that's precedent setting, I think our subcommittee could also be making this recommendation to the full committee if we wanted to. So if it's okay with you, Councilors Pat and Holgram, maybe we could make this motion, discuss it, and that could be an alternative. Council Pat, your hand is patiently raised.
Yep,
So.
thank you, Madam Chairperson. I don't know if making a motion first and then getting into some discussion may require a number of changes in between. And I'm just wondering whether we might have some discussion before we make a motion about, again, I have a couple of suggestions, et cetera, and I'm not sure that making the motion, you know, whether it would fit within the motion to do amendments, or whether, you know, it's contrary to the motion or whatever. So I'm just wondering if we could have allow some discussion before we make a motion.
I mean, we can suspend the rules of order if that's something that Council Holgram agrees to. If you wanted to do that, typically we don't do that, but
Right.
we certainly can have a little bit more of a discussion because this is something that's unique. Are you okay with that, Council Holgram, suspending the rules?
Yes, I'm okay either way.
Okay.
I'm okay either way. I am leaning more toward having the full committee of the whole council take a look at this on Tuesday as well. But
Okay.
I'd be happy to suspend the rules of procedure. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So Council Pat, why don't you take a lead and talk about
Okay.
some of your suggestions?
What I was saying is, and I'm fairly adamant about my feelings, is that if we are to approve, even if we go ahead and, you know, move it in front of the full city council for their approval, which I'm not sure they would or not. That's individual councilors' decisions. But I'm extremely leery about giving a permit for a closure for a private event that does not specifically itself, you know, benefit the community. I understand what you've said, and I really appreciate all the things. Those are some phenomenal things that you're doing for the community. But I am really opposed to setting the precedent of doing that. I can imagine how many applications could end up coming in. And what I'm thinking about this is, again, it's, if it's nice weather, obviously you're going to be outdoors and then maybe people will be coming by. But maybe the best way is to, rather than close the road, I don't assume you're going to have a lot of large number of, say, very young children crossing back and forth. I assume it's more adults or whatever. But I would suggest maybe the best idea would be to make up some very nice, polite signage that could be posted along the road that, such and such an event is going on, and to please, be careful and drive slowly, or, watch out or whatever, and just hire a couple of police officers for a detail. And I believe actually the details, the minimum for a detail, I think it's 4 hours. You'll have to address that with the police department, but I believe it's 4 hours. So you could have it, for, at least an hour or so before and after your ceremonies. They would be there. And I'm pretty sure that with a couple of signs or whatever, and a police officer or two standing there on the road, that I think you would accomplish the same thing. And I'm really afraid that even if the motion does, survive through this evening and goes to the full city council, that you won't get acceptance at that level. And again, I'm not speaking for any other counselors, but
Okay.
that's just a suggestion I would
Okay,
maybe
and
make.
so let me just elaborate on one of the matters there that I know a little bit about, because I watched the SEAC meeting. I also spoke to Assistant Chief Joe Fitzgerald today. There's a pretty strong likelihood that there might not be detail that will sign up for that. It's on a Saturday night in the fall. And ultimately, Ron and Beth were looking for the hours from 4 to 10. And so there's a better chance that a detail might be accepted if it was a shorter time period, because there is a minimum amount of time that an applicant is required to pay for detail, and that is 4 hours. Okay, so that is more attractive to the possibility on a busy Saturday night when a lot of officers have family issues and might not be as excited about, signing up for a full 4 or 5 hours. There's a very good reasonable chance that would not be popular. So I think that that's something that we kind of need to think about, because I would feel sad if a wedding was planned with the assumption that maybe they would get an hour of a road closure, and but we were trying to expand it to be something larger than that, just to make something feel a little bit of flexibility with a little bit of slow traffic. I don't think that would be I don't think the police would feel that safe about that. And I don't think that they would be able to staff that based on the suggestion. So does that make sense to you, Counselor?
Again, I was listening to the meeting as well, and I understand. I have worked with the police on many details, and I understand, et cetera, that, what the issues may be. It's just my feeling that would still be the best option, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Again, I'm very reluctant
Yeah.
to set a precedent, and I'm trying to come up with a solution that could work for them. I don't know, for that matter, where with the 130 guests, even though some of them are their neighbors, et cetera, where are all their guests going to be parking? Are they going to be maybe they could be using the soccer fields and have a transport, a minibus to transport people to their event or something else. I don't know what those plans are, but that would be up to them. But the road closure part itself, for me, is extremely problematic in that it does not in itself have a purpose of the public, good, public good. That I'm just trying to, I'm trying to help and suggest whatever might be, or
Yeah.
if there's something that they can come to or whatever. And I'm just afraid even if it does go forward from, from P&D here, that the door could be closed on them, at the full city council level.
So I just have a question. Is the 4-hour minimum, is that just for a minimum amount of money for them?
Yeah.
Or yes, so
Yes, that's
So they
just
could
for a
do them-
minimum. It's 4-hour minimum. And if you might only use them for 2 hours or something else, but they
Yeah.
would, if they are a detail for 4 hours, they are required, if you desire, they're required to serve for that 4 hours. But it's quite different between going 4 hours to the 6 hours, in that they would go from a 4-hour shift to an 8-hour shift. And as Chairperson Gilman said, many of the officers have families and it's a Saturday night and whatever, they may not choose to fulfill it. So it would be, if it was I'm not sure what time the actual wedding is.
Right.
Ceremony.
Right, and you can also cite that it's really for a block of time that's possibly an hour.
Mhm.
But that the detail is 4 hours, and that's the important. It's that expectation of that commitment. If that makes sense. So
Right, and you could tell them that you're only going to keep them for 2 hours, but the requirement of a detail is a 4-hour detail, and the details from there, many events that have a detail, that could be a road closure by the one of the utility companies because they're working on a pole, and it's an hour's worth of work. And to be honest, that those are the types of jobs that the officer might like, because he's getting paid for 4 hours and only being there for an hour.
I was thinking
So
that,
you
yeah.
may be able to work that out. But again, we're not here as planning and development subcommittee to fill the police details. That you would have to work out with Deputy Chief Fitzgerald and et cetera. I'm
Okay.
just trying to make some suggestions,
Okay.
having worked many events over
okay,
the.
I appreciate that. All right, so at this point, I think I'd like to make a motion, and then we can discuss it and we can vote it, and we can just decide if we feel like we want to escalate this to the full committee. So I move that Planning and Development Committee votes to permit a street closure to through traffic in the area of 43 Shore Road between number 58 to 39 on Saturday, September 25th, 2021, from 4 p.m. until 5 p.m. for the purpose of a private wedding ceremony with the following conditions. A, applicant is responsible for providing a police detail during the time of the road closure. B, applicant must provide and post clear signage for a temporary route around the area of the street closure, specifically the Hesperus Ave to the Fuller stretch. C, a formal traffic plan in addition to signage must be submitted to the Gloucester Police Department for review 2 weeks before the event. D, applicant must officially notify abutters of street closure with the details of the traffic plan at least a week before the event. E, applicant must allow enough space for emergency vehicle access in the area of the street closure. F, applicant is aware that the area is open to walkers and bicyclists. G, all parking ordinances in the area must be adhered to, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and we've got a second, and let's discuss it. So who would like to begin? Jen, do you want to speak? Because we've heard quite a bit from Council Pat. Go ahead.
Yes. I can see things from both of these points of view. I agree with Councillor Pett that certainly, while obviously you two are incredibly invested in the community, the event itself is a private event, and so I've been struggling with this for some time now. So I'm not really sure yet where I stand. I'm inclined to vote against it, only because I do feel very strongly it would set a precedent. An hour is certainly less time than 5 or 6 hours, but I would like personally to vote it up to the council so that we can all talk about it, because it's unique, and I feel that it may open the gates to other proposals like this.
Thank you, Council Holgram. I'm always last to speak, so I'm going to let Council Pett speak again. So.
Okay. Again, I think it's wonderful what you're doing in the community. I'm happy and congratulatory for you on the upcoming wedding, etc. But I think, in my opinion, that I cannot support a road closure for a private event that is not in itself benefiting the community. And I'm hoping that even if it goes forward to the full council, that others would feel the same way. The precedent setting is what bothers me. Other than that, I'm fully supportive of what you would do. The only concern I had, like I said, would be access to the pier that might be diminished in any way, shape, or form. But the precedent part, to me, is the problem. And I would hope that even if it goes before the council and if it does go before the council and they don't approve, that you'd be able to work things out with the deputy police chief. And my guess is they would be able to do something that would be satisfactory to make your event very successful and have this become hopefully a non-issue.
Okay.
So I have just
You may speak. Go ahead.
sorry, like I said,
It's okay, Ron.
yeah. With respect to the precedent, you know, it's a sort of an unusual situation where we have a road that is sort of not private, but sort of like it's public, but we have property on both sides. It's an unusual situation. Does that still make it a precedent as far as you see with other situations?
Yes.
The issue is that private roads have statutory public access.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. And even
Yeah.
though private road holders are required to maintain their roads in terms of potholes and betterments for paving, which is the way that the Massachusetts law is written and mirrored here in Gloucester, that you know, it does allow the public to access. And that's basically why it minimally, to me, the passage of people that would want to walk down the street or ride their bikes or walk their dog would be absolutely imperative. So anyway, so let me speak, and then I think it's time to vote. So I'm going to vote in favor of this, and I want to be clear on why. I've really also taken this to heart, and to me, it seems like you've spoken to the 8 to 10 abutters that actually are the physical homeowners on that road passage. And so really all we are doing is we're putting a detour around for just 1 hour. So people that want to take a ride on the shore are only going to be detoured a very, very small way of not seeing that part of Shore Road. And so I am comfortable with that brief detour just for an hour. I personally think that people that have been trying to get married in the past 2 years because of COVID have been through so many ups and downs. And I'm really just sensitive to just the whole challenge of providing a safe environment. And I think, you know, you came into this, our applicants came into this, Council Pett and Holgram, very, very excited about closing this for the full amount of time. And SEAC basically thought that that was not right for the things that Council Pett suggested. And I agree, but I felt 1 hour was reasonable. You know, people that, no one's going to be allowed, you know, there's no one will be told they can't go to the pier, they can. I think Council Nolan's thought that there's only maybe 2 parking spots in that location that wouldn't be accessible with this detour. Maybe we could ask Council Nolan, I don't typically ask for this during deliberation, but could you just explain how many parking spots would not be accessible if we were to close this from beginning on 58 Shore?
There's 2 spots at the Magnolia Pier that are accessible for car traffic. If the road is closed, the car traffic can't go there because they can't leave there. The more important issue is the pedestrians, animals, dog walking, bicyclists, people that use the road. With the private road with a public access, there's points of access on the road that belong to the city. It's a touchy subject with what happens, and this goes back to a vote from 1947 where public money is used to maintain what they can and to plow the actual road. That was a vote by the people of Gloucester to spend money to plow the road and take care of it during the winter. And that gives it the right to anybody that lives in Gloucester or anybody in the state, because money comes into that, as a right to use the road. So if you want to say that you own both sides of the road, I understand that is what your deed is. I have looked at it. But the middle of the road is something that is maintained by the city for plowing and access. So I wouldn't support any notion to restrict access for people to be able to use that. It's a tough decision. You guys have your nuptials, and it's a beautiful place. I born and raised here. I grew up here. I really do think that it's a touchy subject. I mean, next thing you know, are people going to ask to close Atlantic Road to have their wedding at the Elks and then be able to walk across the road and sit on the side of the road to do their photos and their nuptials. So it's very tough decision for me, as a lot of people use a road. The most important part to me would be the access for the walkers, the dogs, the bicyclists, and so on and so forth. The cars would be very minimal, but you can't access the 2 spots at the Magnolia Pier. By closing Hesperus, you deny 2 rights of a spot to park and be able to leave legally without changing the one way. So it may sound very, very strange and simple at the same time, but it's also the situation that I think I would be on more of the side of vetting this a little bit more with some more input. I think the end result is going to be peaceful as far as hiring the officers. We do deal with multiple towns and agencies, so to hire an officer or 2 to take care of it won't be an issue. We deal with Rockport, Essex, Manchester, Beverly. There's lots of officers available. I just think that my opinion would be to,
John,
yes.
you shouldn't state your opinion if we're going to.
Yes.
bring this
Yeah, I
up
know.
to full council.
So those are my answers.
Okay.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Council Holgram.
excuse me, Madam Chair, may I move to vote this special permit, this special event permit up to the full council? Or do we need to vote on the,
You still need to vote.
okay, so procedural question.
Yeah,
If we vote on this permit as it stands now, it's binding, correct? So if we were to vote it up to the council, we would need to vote yes. The majority would be yes?
no,
Okay,
no, not if we review, if because if it goes to the full council, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a 1 in favor, 2 opposed, if we agree that we want to bring it to the full council.
do we have to
That's
vote
fine.
to? send it to-
So what we would need to do is we would amend the motion just to say that we're recommending to the full council. So we will have to do that. But let me make a suggestion right now, as we are in discussion. So here is a suggestion that I have. We could consider doing a sunset on this special council permit ordinance, that after this event, we would revisit for future applicants the feasibility of street closures for private roads with statutory public access. So what that would allow us to do is regroup as a council on the ordinance of it not being a 501c3 or not a community event. And we would talk as a council about that, which would require a public hearing, and we'd get to hear from the general public. But for this particular matter, this would be a one-time approval with us looking to the future to consider that. So how would you feel about a sunset clause? So we could review this with a public hearing down the road, next month, because, I think we all bring up some good points. We want to do the right thing. And it might be opportune to talk to the public about how they feel in general about that type of street closure going forward. What do you think of that as a possibility? Council Holgram?
I'm hesitant to endorse a sunset clause, only because I think it would probably open up a can of worms. We would have the same issue as Councillor Nolan brought up. We would, I feel as though, and I don't know if this would be true, but we would probably be up to our knees in requests such as this. And it's important for people to be able to do this type of thing. And it's important for them to be able to request this, but I don't know. I don't know what it would look like. I mean, a sunset, there's a time limit, so at least there's that.
Or we can, at any point, we don't have to do a sunset. We could also just bring this matter up as an ordinance that we want to look into with more definitive rules of what type of street closures we allow, right? And that might get to the same thing. So we could do that at any point. Any member of the council could do that regardless of putting a sunset onto this particular vote, correct? So that's a possibility as well. Do you agree with that, Council Holgram, that we could always take a look at that in general?
Well, I certainly think somebody could, yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the solution, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing stopping anybody from doing that.
Okay, Council Pett.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Gilman. Again, and I think we could, any councilor could bring up the subject matter of this type of a permit, and the conundrum we're in here and trying to support citizens and on this special occasion for them, but having the issues. My question would be to you procedurally, if we were to, let's say our vote is to not approve this permit, can we still ask it to go forward to the full council with a negative recommendation from us? We can still do that, correct?
Yes, we can.
And do we make a motion after or after we vote, or is it an amendment, or has nothing to do? How does this work?
I think what we would just do is we would just amend it. So, I mean, I can amend it right now. Unless you want to, Councilor Holgram, that was kind of your suggestion. Do you want to amend the motion?
If
Okay,
you wouldn't mind doing it, Madam Chair, my internet is unstable. I'm sorry.
okay, all right. This is always part of Zoom. So I will amend the motion by adding after the Planning and Development Committee votes to recommend that the full city council permits a street closure. So Sherry, do you understand what that amendment is? So by adding the full city council permits a street closure.
But does that not include, that mean that we are voting in favor? You said to add that. You just said the motion is that we voted in favor.
No.
Okay, repeat it, please.
All right, so let's take that away right now. No, I didn't mean to say we voted in favor, because although you always vote in favor, that's how we do Robert's rules, right? We always vote affirmatively. So I move that we amend the motion by adding the plan after the Planning and Development Committee requests that the full committee permit. That's exactly what I said the last time. That's fine. And that is the amendment. And I so move.
Second.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Beth, we're not allowed to, we're in the final stages, so we can't accept your comment right now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So right now, let me just be clear. We have a motion, and what we're doing is we are recommending that our vote goes on to the full city council. And in the wording that we just worded it, and it's always worded affirmatively, and that's why we keep the wording the way it is. Council Pett, are you clear on that?
Okay, so in other words, what we're going to vote on first is an amendment,
Yeah.
which is going to send this to, that regardless of the vote, is going to send this forward to the city council.
Exactly.
But it does not mean that we're, say, voting in affirmative.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay,
So
thank you.
procedurally, we're now bringing this to the full city council. So we have an amendment on the floor. Let's do a roll call. Council Holgram,
Yes.
Council Pett,
Yes.
Council Gilman, yes. We are back to the full motion now, the main motion. So I think we're through discussing, unless anybody else wants to say anything before we do a roll call. Okay, so Council Holgram,
No.
Council Pett,
No.
Council Gilman, yes. Okay, the noes have it, 2 in favor. Nope, I'm sorry. The yeses have it, 1 in, nope. The vote is yes, 1, no, 2. But the decision is that we are bringing this forward to the full city council at next Tuesday's meeting. So Beth and Ron, we welcome you to come next week at our Tuesday meeting. I will have to get permission from Council LeBlanc to put this on the agenda because he is the one that makes the decision to putting things on the agenda, but I'm certain he will, because we understand your situation and we don't want to, one of the reasons why we wanted to get this right on the agenda was because we understand that being a bride to be and groom to be, you've got a lot on your mind. So we'd like to make sure that you can visualize exactly what's going to happen. So we understand that. So so I think without further ado, we're ready to adjourn the meeting. So is there a motion to go ahead? I'll let you speak. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for the time. And I see the difficulties you're talking about. So we'll move forward to try to arrange a police detail anyway. Like, I think that was a suggestion. I think we'll do that. And then we'll let it take its course. But I see the problem and I appreciate the time you took.
Yes, I agree. And
Thank you.
thank you, Councillor Gilman, for understanding how we feel. And all of you, I see your point now, so thank you. But we should probably just hire the police
Well, we're going to do that.
Detail.
We'll,
and then,
Yeah.
so I don't
It's a
see
bit more
why we
complicated
need
than
to
we
move
thought.
forward. However, I think maybe you want to figure this out for the future.
Thank you. And unfortunately, we can't guarantee who signs up for overtime, and that's
yeah.
the conundrum, you know, and but
Well, we have-
certainly,
As
Right.
Councilor Nolan said, it's not just Gloucester Police. For their details,
Yeah.
they also do use Rockport, Manchester, and Essex. And they've even gone as far as going to Ipswich. So I'm fairly confident that, you know, they will be. It's just Deputy Fitzgerald obviously can't make a commitment. And he was explaining, you know, that again, it's a family time for other people as well. But we all wish you the most fabulous time, and hopefully you'll have the most important part, I guess, that we can wish is that you have nice weather.
Yes.
Yes,
that
exactly.
day. So
Yeah.
that, and we can't vote on that, although I'm sure we all give a thumbs up for that.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you. Yes, we
Right.
do. And it's even beautiful in the rain there. So
it's supposed to be a luck charm, good luck charm. Beth and Ron, you've been most professional. Thank you for understanding, and thank you for your professionalism. And it was really nice to meet you both, even though it's on Zoom. Maybe the next time I'll meet you in town. So thank you so much.
that would
Right.
be very nice.
So is there a
Thank
motion?
you, all of you.
Thank you.
very much.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. I guess I made it. Oh, no, Barry, Council Pett made it and Council Holgram seconded it. Roll call vote for the motion to adjourn. Council Holgram,
Yes.
Council Pett,
Yes.
Council Gilman, yes. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Sherry.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.